one of the. So let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Ryan. My name is Claudio, and I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the students Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Ryan accepted our invitation to our show. Hey, Ryan, welcome to the show, man.
Hi, Claudio. How's it going?
All good, man. So let's go back to, let's start what's going on in the world with the COVID and the pandemic. Some people believe in the vaccine, some people don't. And, as a musician or tour musician, its ability to tour or to meet up with people, go to the studio. How COVID has affected you as a musician, and how you hold it up?
It's not really impacted me at all, because when did this start? It was April 2020, and that was when Zopp 1 was released on Bad Elephant Music. So Zopp isn't a live act at the moment. It still isn't, because I've struggled to find musicians, like a whole band, that can perform this music. So the touring aspect wasn't affected. It's not like we had any plans to tour anywhere. It was just early 2020 was a time for me to just release this record and see what response I was going to get from the public or on the internet. And obviously it was quite big in the underground side of progressive rock. People commenting on the fact that this Canterbury sound has returned, and the bands like National Health, Egg, all of that stuff. So and again, around this time, early 2020 until the present time, I've just been writing music and recording music and rehearsing with Andrea, the drummer in Zopp. And there are some periods where Andrea wanted to maybe have a bit of distance, of course, with the COVID thing, and I respect that. That's fine. But that just meant I had more time to write music and focus on getting these new songs, as good as possible. So it's not had any impact really on any of the creative process. In fact, it's been beneficial to write and focus on more of the writing and coming up with new stuff. So I'm working on the second record at the moment. It's not out. There's no deadline or a date. So I'm just taking my time with it, and when it's done, I'll just release it.
And were you born like in a musical family? How were you when you began either taking guitar lesson or piano lesson or whatever?
Well, I'm self-taught on pianos, synthesizers, guitars. My dad is a musician, part-time musician. He hasn't taken it as seriously as I have. But he is, I suppose, the catalyst for me getting into progressive rock, because I went through his vinyl collection when I was about 13 or 14, and I discovered the likes of King Crimson and Hatfield in the North and all of this stuff, and his CD collection. And I remember listening to this stuff back then and just being blown away. And there's part of me that wants to return to that childlike innocence with music. The first time you hear this stuff, obviously I've heard these bands so many times, and obviously these bands still provide a lot of the goods even after thousands of listens, but there's something quite nostalgic about that time, 13, 14, 15. And my dad had a synthesizer, like a Yamaha workstation, and I remember just playing. It had like a recording feature, and you could do like programmable drums, yep, and keyboards, everything. So I just remember gravitating towards that and playing on this keyboard. And my dad also had like a tape deck. So I learned how to hook it up to this tape deck and then record on a cassette. And then I just went for a walk and listened to my own songs, and I was blown away. And I think that aspect of music is something that's always been really important to me. Just the recording, writing, overdubbing, and producing music. I've never really been interested in playing live, although it's something that I think I'll have to do within the next couple of years, because it's a new experience. But I've always been interested in just I'm a studio animal. I think that's what I am. And when I was about 15, I got a multi-track recorder, and this was the best present ever. My dad got me this, and I remember just they had up to 16 tracks. So I could do the bass guitar, I could do guitars, I could do synthesizers. It had a drum machine built in. And I just spent hours in my bedroom, you know, making loads of music. And then eventually I went to college and I studied music technology, and I learned how to use Pro Tools, a recording software. So it's just like more professional, basically. And then from there, I've just been doing it on and off in my life, you know, working part-time, doing music. And I just had the confidence to release the first record when I was, I think 27, about 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago. Yeah, 28. So, so yeah, I always wanted to make a good record, make an impact. And I think it did, the first record, of course, in the underground scene.
Absolutely, man. And then, so but you were 13 listening to King Crimson and all the stuff that your dad had at home. What about when you were kind of 18, 19? It was pressure from the family to forget about music. It's hard to make a living, go to school, go to law school, or become a doctor or whatever, or wasn't any pressure to leave the music world behind and then do a formal path to academia and then get a good job in London or whatever?
That's right. I think it's a good question, that is. I think when I was in my late teens, music was my life, like a lot of young men still. And I went to university and then I went into marketing for a bit. But I always did music on the side. And I think it's just been a confidence issue. You know, I always admire people that don't care at all and they just go for the music. You know, people like Zappa, it's just their life. And part of me regrets not putting more effort in at an earlier stage. But like I said, it's just a confidence thing. When I released Zopp 1 and I got this amazing feedback, I think it spurred me to work on the next record immediately, because I just had this feedback from people like, yes, this is great. And I've not really had that in my life. You know, I think I've always had a musical ear since my teens, you know, just picking up an instrument and not knowing what to do, but creating a decent sound out of it. And I've never really lost that. So yeah, it's a shame that I didn't really release this record 10 years ago, but you can't think like that. You know, what's done is done, and at least I'm being creative now for the first time and releasing it to people that enjoy it, and that's important for me.
Oh, no, absolutely, absolutely. Your music, I think you were inspired by many. I think the Canterbury prog scene. How would you describe your sounds? How different it is from, you know, progressive rock, or which area within progressive rock, or is Canterbury related type of music, if you will?
Yeah, the Canterbury element is definitely obvious on the first record, and I've not made any attempt to hide that at all. You know, in the press release, I talked about that. However, I mean, I don't like to be too generic with it. I don't like to say I'm a Canterbury scene type of rock musician, because for me, it's boxing the musician in too much. So I like to expand my musical horizons, so to speak, and just explore different types of music. And it's hard. I mean, I think the description of the first album is a job for journalists, but for me, there's a lot of the different elements on the first album. You've got the Canterbury thing, and then you've got some ambient textures in there, which isn't something that's common with the Canterbury scene bands like Egg, National Health. There's some textures, and I think that comes from my love of ambient music, but also artists like Porcupine Tree, yeah, that include the ambient, you know, Richard Barbieri's textures and with rock music. And I've always liked that, you know, it almost feels cinematic, that experience. So I try to incorporate that element on the first record. And obviously there's an ambient interlude track called Salanra, which is just a Norwegian word taken from a book. And I'm really proud of that song because it's just really beautiful and melodic and slow. And you've got this sort of organ with loads of reverb on and birds tweeting. And I've always loved that. But there's even metal elements on the first, there's the song Before the Light, there's like a blast beat, you know, like really hard drumming. So there's all sorts of stuff in there, little Easter eggs, so to speak, little things in there. And the next album is even more eclectic. You know, I'm singing on the next one. There's a lot of jazz, there's a lot of psychedelia. So basically I'm open to all sorts of music, and I can see Zopp changing, and it will change and adapt in the future.
Sure. No, absolutely. And it's, as I say to you before the interview, and I discovered your band by accident, and then it's great music, man. So
Yeah.
if you go back to 2017, 2018, when you decided to put the band together, you were on your own and you struggled to find musicians where you live. Walk me through the process of, you know, one hand, man, I want to release this stuff, great. How when I find musician to like my music and play with? What was the struggle at the time? Or
well, I don't want to sound too arrogant, but I think I've always been the type of guy that just wants to hear my own music. I've never got on with the whole democratic band thing, because I know I'm quite good at composing. I think it's my forte to write the music. And I was in a band. I started really exploring the band thing in around 2014, 2015. And it was an interesting experience. I played with some bands in a city called Derbyshire, which is near Nottinghamshire, where I live. And I found a band eventually. I got a drummer and a bass player and me on keyboards. It was a trio. And we played some very dark progressive rock. Do you know a band called Magma?
Yeah, I heard the name. I don't know them.
Yeah, they're a French band, very sort of dark but ambitious music from the 70s. And this band around 2015 that I started was inspired by that type of music, very avant-garde, progressive rock. And I did that for 2 years, but it collapsed by 2017, and there were fights in the band. And I think there was I think they didn't like the fact that I was writing the music. Maybe I was too much of a control freak. So, yeah, and I think I am with music. I like to hear it how I want to hear it, and it's not nice to tell people what to do. But basically 2017 was the catalyst for Zopp. That was when Zopp started. So the whole band experience for me was a failure. And I thought, I've got all this music that I've written over a 10-year period. And I even wrote music in this period, 2015 to 2017, which will be released in future Zopp releases. And I thought, sod this, I'm going to start my own project. I'm going to resurrect Zopp, and I'm going to find a drummer, and I'm going to release my first record. And that's what I did. And it took 3 years from there. 2017, it was released in early 2020. And for most of 2017, I was rehearsing with Andrea.
Yep.
So I put a post out, and he responded. We had a rehearsal, and he was perfect. And he was really diligent with learning the music. He even wrote all the drum parts out, because I even composed for the drums too, because every element is important for me. And he learned all the music. We rehearsed it for a long time. And then I went away around 2018, 2019, just producing it. And then I got in touch with Andy TILLISON from The Tangent. He loved it. And then he helped with the final stages, shall we say, the mastering and the mixing. And then it was done. So that's my musical journey, I suppose, since 2015-ish. Yeah.
You mentioned before Richard Barbieri and Porcupine Tree and Steven Wilson. Those are great people, man. Of course, I love the music. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I mean, Steve Wilson's music, Porcupine Tree, that was one of the first. Porcupine Tree was one of the first bands that I heard, progressive bands that I heard, and I was blown away by it. And I even remember the moment when I was maybe 13 or 14. I heard Sound of Muzak off the In Absentia record. And I remember just being blown away, like, this is amazing. The production, I wasn't thinking in those terms, obviously, at 13 or 14, like the sound or anything. I was just blown away by the whole thing. And I suppose Porcupine Tree and Wilson's music's in my musical DNA. You know, it's always going to be in there, I think.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Steven Wilson has done so many stuff. I mean, he worked with so many bands. He has for several bands, and he mixing for other people. He has redone a lot of early records on different bands and his own version. And he's an amazing guy, very, very talented guy, very, you know, very good in what he does.
Yeah, he's very prolific. I wish I was as prolific as him because he just churns out so much music all the time. And
has you know, something extra here, I think, because he has the time to tour and work with different people, different bands, and mixing and editing and touring, and the guy is good. I'm happy that he's able to do that. I'm glad that you mentioned that you're confident, and then at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. You need to release stuff that you like, release the stuff that you want to hear, and as if making music, you know, without compromise, right? And create a sound which is totally your own. That's by definition. That's at the end of the day which is important, you know. And people don't have the confidence or cannot be leaders. I need to follow somebody else's idea. And in your case, you did it. So more power to you, man.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just understanding who you are basically in this life generally. And I think for me with music, I have a sort of, again, it sounds a bit arrogant or pretentious, but I've got that leadership role. You know, I know what needs to be done. I've got a musical ear basically. So I've struggled to work in a band environment because it's like an ego clash. Some people don't like the fact that I'd come up with all the material, although it's very strong material.
Yeah.
But I know how the drum should be. I know how the arrangement should be, and I might as well do it myself. And I've had to learn. I mean, it's not been easy because, of course, with the recording aspect of making music, it takes a lot of time to make music that sounds good, you know, with the drum sound. And obviously with Zopp music, it's very layered. So you've got ambient stuff, you've got keyboard solos, a lot is happening. And I've had to learn about production and arrangements to get a good sounding record, because if you've got all this stuff happening at the same time in a mix, it sounds horrible. Yeah, so you've got to learn to cut things out and pan things left and right in the speaker and all these technical things, which I'm still learning, you know, on this second record, because I'm doing everything myself, this next one. So
do you that's great. The first was self-release, so you went to a record label. Is any benefit that you can see if you have gone to a record label, or you prefer to do self-releases and then upload it to Bandcamp or whatever the process is?
Yeah, the first album was released on Bad Elephant Music, which are a London label.
Yeah.
And I mean, they did really well with it. You know, they put it in the right places. They have very good distribution. I mean, it's gone to Japan, the US, everywhere, and in the right stores, obviously. And I thought, obviously, I wasn't thinking tactfully to get Andy TILLISON in for him to promote it, because of course his band, The Tangent, is very big. I basically needed help with the first album just to finish it, and Andy was the best person to approach because he understands this type of music. But he was really good at pushing the music to his fan base, which is obviously a big fan base, and he sincerely likes Zopp and the music, so it was all sort of genuine, his promotion of the music. So he did a great job at getting the music out there. But I think, like you said, in regards to Bandcamp these days, you can put your music up there and it just, there's a ripple effect. You know, people start talking about it. The fact that Zopp was featured on one of the Bandcamp daily articles on the Canterbury Sound was massive, of course. So a lot of people discovered Zopp through that. And I think the internet is just a fantastic resource still. If you can be creative, you can get your music in the right places. And again, without sounding arrogant, if you put a lot of work into the music will speak for itself. You know,
I completely agree. Yeah. Absolutely. It's for this. Now you mentioned that you work in the second album, and do you, it's looking back, right? Would you do things differently? I mean, how you will approach when the album is done, whenever it happens to be, are you going to follow the same process with the same record label, with the same people that help you produce the record and promote it? That's the path that you wanna stay if it was successful on the
Yeah,
first.
I don't know yet. This whole approach with the second album has been very independent. So I've just been working with Andrea, the drummer in Zopp,
Yeah.
by myself most of the time, and then I've sent it to people like Andy TILLISON, who I'm friends with, just for advice on the mixes. So I'm still learning how to create a great sounding record. So I still need advice and other people's perspective on the music, because when you're working in this studio that I'm in, you lose perspective on the music. You listen to it from your speakers and you think it sounds good, and then you go to the car and play your music and it doesn't sound very good. So you have to share it with people and get feedback. But for the second album, I don't know yet. I've not signed to any record label, or I might release it myself and set up my own label, because obviously with any record label, they take a lot of the money. But there are all sorts of processes for independent artists these days. There are certain companies that dispatch the record for you, and they might take a cut. So if there's a lot of demand, it saves me going to the post office and sending records out. So there are things that I'm looking into. My best friend called Tom, he owns his record label called Repose Records, which is like a metal label. And he's given me a lot of advice on potential avenues for me for this second record. So everything's in the planning stage at the moment. But as you can imagine, doing the music, self-releasing, it's a lot of work. But part of me now is just at peace. And when it's done, it's done. You know, I'm not going to set deadlines and anything like this. The first album took 10 years. That's what I said in the press release, which is partly true. I started it in 2010. But this album, the second Zopp album, will hopefully be released by the end of this year. Touch wood, I think so.
Yeah, that's what you need to aim for. And man, music for me, it's in many ways like a mystical and magical experience, if you will, because I put my headphone, I listen to stuff, and I go places. Feel free to elaborate on your creative process. It's like you go for a walk, you put your headphone or your phone and listen to different piece, and then come back home. Man, I should change the stuff. What's the process like for you on a weekly or daily basis to create music?
Yes. Well, I write music for myself, obviously. So I'm my #1 fan. So if I'm not happy with the music, I don't want it released. So that's why I take my time with stuff to make sure it's resonating with me. And as you say, it has to take me places, you know, and it's all very abstract talking about this when you're talking about music, and it's very subjective and personal relationship. But you're right, I normally do demos of like work in progress demo of the music, and I go in my car and I go for a ride and I listen to it, and I'm critiquing the music on a technical level or a scientific level, like all the bass guitar is too loud, or the vocals are too quiet, and all of this stuff. But really, it's the going for a walk, listening to the music on my iPod is the best experience. You know, just going for a walk and listening to your own music. I've always loved doing that since I was a kid. Like I said, with the cassette days back when I was 14 years old. So music does take me places, and I like making albums, you know, musical journey that might last up to 40 minutes, 45 minutes. For me, that time period is perfect because you've got the attention span in that period. And that's why all these records from the 70s, I think, were successful, because of the vinyl format. You had 20 odd minutes per side, which is 40 odd minutes. So that for me, the record that's what I want to do with Zopp, just make good short records, because it's dense music and it requires a lot of attention to understand it, I think, maybe. So yeah.
I no, completely agree with you, man. I know. Do you in the meantime, how you have another job that you do at the same time? I mean, you work part-time or full-time in order to be able to pay the bills until the new release comes in, or
That's right. Yeah. Sorry, a bit of feedback. I do some part-time work now and again in marketing, and I do some odd jobs here and there, and it's it feeds the art lifestyle. And for me, since the first record was released, I wanted to put more time into that, because, like I said, the fact that I'm doing everything myself, I feel like I need to put a large proportion of the week into making this music. Otherwise, it would take another 10 years, you know. So yeah, I have to fund this lifestyle definitely with part-time work and that type of thing. And I had a full-time job, office job for a while, and I just found it difficult because I'd come home from work and then I'd have to make music in the evening, and only like 3 hours or 4 hours, and then there's no time. But I think it's good to work, obviously, because when you come home to do the music, you appreciate the music a lot more. And I can imagine that if you're just sat at home making music all day, the novelty wears off and you don't really appreciate what you're doing. So I think it's important to get out of the studio, so to speak, or out of the house and live your life, and then return to the music, because it might feed the music.
Where all the motivation come from? Because it would have been very easy for you to give up and stay in that office job and say, man, the life as a musician is very hard. I'm not going to make it, and I should forget about the stuff and concentrate on my day job. But you didn't, right? You say, well, no, I need X number of dollars a pound to live. I will get a job that will help me pay that. On the other side of my life, I will keep on pushing music because that's what I like. How you make the decision, because a lot of people struggle in that area. You know, some people would not make it and say, no, forget about the music, man. I want to get married and get a job or go to graduate school, you know, get a more lucrative job or whatever. And fewer people like yourself say, no, this is my thing in life, and I need to do it. I have no choice, you know.
Yeah, I think people change, obviously, in their life. For me at the moment, I've got this drive to make these records, and I really want to put a lot of effort into that. And I do with music. I take it seriously, but it's fun too. You know, it's like being a child with music. You know, as a kid, you're playing with Lego and stuff like that, to be creative and imagining worlds with your toys. And now as an adult, I just imagine musical worlds that, so I think it's just, as I've said, knowing who you are, knowing what your strengths are, and having almost like the view that you're contributing to something. For me, the idea of creating something very generic that sounds like Porcupine Tree, or, you know, these modern progressive bands, that idea is very boring for me, because and depressing, because there's no point in sounding like all of these bands that we've heard tenfold, you know. So for me, I've got this ambition to create this new sound that's combining the Canterbury with something a bit modern. And I think it's a contribution, sincerely. I do think this next record I'm really proud of, and I can't wait to release it. And I think people are going to like it, you know. So I think when you get that feedback off people, it does give your life a bit more meaning, basically, that you're contributing towards something. And it's good to create. It's good to create at the end of the day. It's nice to consume records, and I love vinyl, listening to records and CDs, but I get a bit restless and I need to start creating. So it's just knowing who you are as a person.
Very, very well said. Yeah. Well, I tried to contribute with the interviews a little bit, and created those these radios for people to listen to. All my radios are free. I have a a lot of music, and I mean a lot. And
you interviewed Manuel Goshing, didn't you? E2 to E5.
Of course I do.
Yeah, I need to watch that because I saw it on your interview list, and I love his music. German.
Oh, he's very good. And as a matter of fact, I was planning to do a trip on to Germany and in December, but with the new Omicron thing, it was difficult. It was not advisable to fly to Germany at the time because we're out of control. So I ended up postponing my trip, and I plan to go maybe May. And I want to interview. It's a good thing to do interview like this way, but I want to go to interview the folks in their own country about the Berlin School of Music that I really like it. And from Michael Honig, Klaus Schulze, Peter Baumann, and Manuel Goschen, they are heroes of mine. And you know, it's like a dream come true because I never thought that when I put this radio together. So when I put the radio together during the pandemic, people told me, well, this is not going to work out. You know, you have an accent, or people are not going to like your music, or they'll interview the question, whatever. I don't care what, like you, right? I don't care what everybody else thinks or does. It's foolish to think that way. I have an idea and I want to make it happen. And I did, you know, at the beginning, I sent a lot of email, and people didn't reply to me. And then all of a sudden, one guy who used to be former member of Genesis, Steve Hackett, get back to me, and I got lucky and say, man, I want to plan to do a good radio. All my radios are going to be free. I will never charge for anything. I'm paying music rights. I own all the music packages I like. I want to use good radio with no advertising, 24-hour a day, and it was appealing to him. Like I say, okay, I will give an interview. And then the next one, and the next one. Now, looking back a year and a half, I have done over 150. I have interviewed people from Genesis, from Toto. I'm going to be interviewing the rest of the Genesis folk. I'm trying to get a hold of people from Pink Floyd. Very likely I will have Steven Wilson during the summer for an interview, and I reach out to Richard Barbier as well, and David Sylvian, his brother Steve Jansen as well. So a long answer to your question. Yeah, electronic music is very important to me. I have like a wide range of stuff. I mean, depending on the day. Some days I'm a Coldplay type of guy. In the evening, Pat Metheny or Blondie or progressive band, the stuff you like, you work on. Electronic music, Tangerine Dream, and I have a wide. There's music I don't like, obviously, but I have a wide range, and very lucky that I have a good, well-paying job, and I have a lot of schooling that allow me to get paid.
This German interview, then, was that successful? Peter Baumann?
Yeah. Manuel Goschen it took me a year to do that, but I have interviewed a lot of people from Germany who speak very good English, obviously, and they like what I did, and they like the style or interview, the question, and I show them different records. Yeah, in this record you release that, and that record you release that, and of course, Manuel Goschen on his own is very famous. But you know, the Ashura Temple stuff that he did, and it's so. If you give me 1 minute, I have
sure
on. Well, where I have my, I need to, well, it is, yeah, right here. Yeah, so this is my kind of Manuel Goschen, Ashura Temple kind of stuff. This is the album that you referring to E2 E4.
Yeah, I love that record, E2 to E5. It's just
E2 E4.
Oh, E2 to E4. Sorry, sorry.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, I love it. It's just completely monotonous, and
It's unbelievable. This invention for electric guitars also is a
Oh yeah,
very good album.
that's a good record.
And
Yeah,
I can send you a list of recommend you some stuff. New Age on Earth is very good.
yeah,
And you know, many others. And then this the remaster of Actual Temple. So I became friend with a lot of these people. So and I'm getting a lot more involved than I was perhaps hoping for or dreaming for. It never occurred to me that even in my wildest dreams, I will reach out to those people and I became friend. And you know, you mentioned you know, Manuel Goshen or Steven Wilson. In the near future, I want to be having a cup of coffee or a beer in a shop in the UK with this guy or in Germany, and I never thought that would be possible. You know, I was consuming stuff, you know,
yeah.
but now, you know, I'm going to be flying and then do, I want to do like a kind of documentary about Berlin School of Music and interview all these people that I mentioned before. And they reach out to me and say, yeah, let's do it. Fly to Germany, let me know when you're coming and we do something together. So it had been amazing for me. I never thought that would be possible. I mean, at the time I say, well, if, I don't know, if 100 people listen to the radio because I own 4 radio, that would be great. If I do 20 interviews, that would be great. Now about 6,000 people listen to radio all over the world and 150 interviews. I have a list of about 20, 30 people I need to call. And one day I want to have a project related. I know some people on the BBC that I'm going to be meeting in the summer, and then I want to pitch them my idea, be part of BBC to collaborate in a certain project, because
Wow.
I have known a lot of people that can help me out. And coming from the BBC for an interview, if I want to reach out to, I don't know, Steven Wilson or Peter Gabriel or whatever, all this big name right now are a little tough for me, but I'm getting there, man. I'm getting there. Like you say about the music, you have your goals and you need to go for it. It's your life, you need to go for it. A good musician told me a metaphor, which is very important. If you have a plan B, you will not make it. If you really like music, you only have one plan. Plan A and plan B need to be the same. In other words, don't have a backup plan, because if you do, you will say, man, the man is good in this office job. I don't like it that much, but you know, pay the bills, stuff like that. Forget about music, but you need it, right? So for me, with music, the interview, I didn't. I know exactly what I want to do, and I know exactly the step I need to do it and where I want to take it. During the September, October this year, I want to go to BBC and say, me, I have an idea. I want to collaborate with people I have done the interview. Would you like to participate in some interview? And then from there, and then from there, and then from there, and then from there.
It's just that intention, isn't it? That first intention, reaching
Yeah,
out. And
right. That you need to believe in yourself. I mean, if you stay at home, nothing happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Steven Wilson have done what he done because he, I suppose, I have no interview him. He had the motivation to do it, and then obviously he's very talented as a musician, but he has a lot of managerial skill like you do. You see, if you need to run a project, you need to run like it's a business, you know.
Yeah, you do.
The radio in many ways like a business for me, right? If I don't reply to email, I don't follow up with people. If I tell you that we'll do the interview at 10 and I say the night before, hey, man, I cannot make it, or let's make it 11. No. You know, you need to take it stuff seriously, you know, and make a lot of effort in some cases. And I have interviewed people from Japan, and I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning or at 10, 11 p.m., right? And you know, some people will not do that, right? But I would. You know, Steven Wilson say, Claudio, I'm in Germany doing a gig. The only time I can do it when I wake up at night, which is 3 o'clock your 4 time. You can bet your life on it. I will wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, get my coffee, and have the interview sharp, ready to go. You know.
Exactly, that's right. No
some
excuses.
people don't. Some people are lazy. You know, No,
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever.
Yeah, sod that. To interview Steve Wilson anytime.
Of course.
Yeah.
Barbieri and many, Steven,
Yeah.
David Sylvian, and Steve John, whatever, all this big names. That I'm closing the gap. Before I was here, now I raise the bar here. Now I want to raise the level. So eventually,
Yeah.
I want to interview everybody and then upload the interviews to YouTube and then have like a legacy. One day,
That's right.
some people will say, "Hey, who was this Peter Frampton guy?" Well, all the interviews on the radio and playing his music is free. They cannot complain. I'm paying rights to the record labels to use the music, and so
yeah, definitely.
I think I'm doing something good in society.
Yeah, you're contributing towards something.
Contribute to society.
People want to listen, don't they? They want to listen to their favorite artists and their opinions and how they make the music.
Yeah, not everybody has a good job to buy vinyl, and I buy a lot, or buy CDs, and I buy a lot, but you can listen to good music for free on the radio. So that's great. But I'll answer to your question about E2E4.
No, I just mentioned that because I saw it on your interview list. And
it's an unbelievable album, E2E4, man. Put your headphone, man, get a beer or two. You go somewhere. You dream. I'm a dreamer.
Yeah, definitely.
I wanted to bring you to attention to a couple of tracks, and feel free to elaborate. And they're really, I like two in particular, and of course I like all this stuff, but the one that got my attention is Before the Lie for the first album. Feel free to elaborate on if you can remember how they create the process, how the composition came together, that kind of stuff.
Right. Before the Light, I think I wrote that in 2014. And it was one of the early Zopp songs. So I wrote a lot from around 2010 to 2015. I think I wrote Before the Light, The Zero, The Noble Shirker, and one other, I can't remember. But Before the Light was, it's a song that's quite, it's quite close to me because it was one of the early songs. And I think it started out, I was interested in a song called Enneagram by a group called Egg. And at the start of that song, there's quite a complex bass line. So I did something similar on the bass, but it ended up sounding nothing like that song at all. So, and I think it's got a lot in it. It was the single off the first album, the opening song, and it's got everything in there. I think it's got the complex melodies, it's got the fuzz organ, it's got the ambient textures, it's got catchy melodies, it's even got heavy sections, and I think it flows really well. I don't know, what do you like about it?
It's very good. I mean, it was different, and although you mentioned it was the first song, that was the first song I listened to your album when I discovered you in Bandcamp, and it's very progressive. I really like your stuff, man. You're very talented in what you do. Plus, as you mentioned before, if you forget about progressive rock or whatever, and you put your headphone without knowing what you want to listen, you have different layers. I mean, it's like a painting, right? It's not just red. Underneath the red, there was color, there was blue. It was paint with stroke, with point dots and line. It's you put a lot of effort and make it easy to listen, but underneath there are many layers, like a cake.
Yeah,
if you will,
And I think for me, melody is really important. So the song like Before the Light, it's got catchy melodies, and
absolutely, yeah.
And it's quite complicated, I suppose. I'm trying to just imagine the song in my head, but the bass line again, the dum 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 dum, that it started out like that. But it is, thanks for the compliment. It is like a painting, like I said earlier in this interview, that I like the ambient element in there because it's spacey and it takes you to another world. You're not just seeing instruments when you're listening to the music. You're seeing this abstract sound for me. So that's how it is. And I love the bit in the middle. It's do you know Egg, the band Egg?
No, never heard of it.
yeah, I mean, this is
Maybe I should check them out.
Yeah, if you listen to a song called "A Visit to Newport," I can send you a link.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
There's a song called "A Visit to Newport Hospital," and there's a lot of piano and organ played at the same time. So there's a bit in the middle of "Before the Light" that has this staccato, like dun 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 dun. So that's very much like an egg thing, and I had this like ambient stuff happening at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a spacey type of track, and I love it. Yeah, I still listen to it today, my own music, and I love it. Yeah,
good for you. The other track that I want to bring to attention from the album, the demo mixes and B-sides, is that the I don't know if I'm pronounced correctly, the novel Shaker.
yes.
How you pronounce that?
Yeah, the Noble Shirker.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the demo album you're talking about.
That's
but
right.
It's on the final album, and I thought I'd just release that demo album on Bandcamp.
It's very, very good. Very, very good. I like different versions of some the more formal one and then a variation on that. I can give an idea how your music, that will lead me to the next question, how you would ever play live and stuff. It's some music with the two of you would be hard to play live, and eventually you need to kind of cross the line and say, well, are we a live band and we need to tour somewhere? In order for me to do that, you need two more people, to help you.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's something I always think about, like how could I translate that in a live format? And obviously there are several different options. You can put things on the PA plate, like the ambient stuff, for example. That's one option, which is difficult to play keyboards and then some ambient stuff. And of course, guest musicians like a saxophonist would be essential. I mean, this next record has quite a bit of saxophone, so that might have to be an option. But I don't think about that. I don't think about how it's going to translate live. Maybe there would be a different arrangement of the song with less things going on, just more of the instruments playing. Because it's, like I said, it's very melodic music. So I could maybe get away with having less, and it might be a different experience. At the same time, I'd love a second keyboard player to do stuff like, so 2 keyboard players would be great. Maybe me and another person, bass player, guitarist, and a drummer. So that would be fantastic. And I think you could do a lot with that. But we'll see about Zopp Live. I've struggled to find people that can play this music, to be honest, because it's a bit beyond some musicians. They can't pick it up easy because the melodies are unusual and the time signatures. But we'll see what happens.
Or perhaps hire one and then some, pre-recorded stuff that you can play via synthesizer and do like a trio thing and then see how it goes in local bars or cafes in the town you live, and then
I think maybe someone needs to push me to do it. That's the thing. At the moment,
I would push you.
Yeah, try, yeah. But you're right, it could work as a trio, couldn't it? And then just a couple of concerts. Yeah. It's just basically it's just a lot of work in the rehearsal stage. So as I've said, I'm working in the studio at the moment and rehearsing this with other musicians and teaching them how to perform the music is very time consuming. You're paying for rehearsals, and of course with the scale of Zopp at the moment, there's no profit with a tour. So you put all this time and effort in, and then there's just net loss with a lot of it. So that's something that's at the back of my mind. But 1 or 2 concerts with one other member is definitely something that I could think about.
You need to, easy for me to say, but you need to try it and adapt.
Yes.
Like you need to have like a growing mindset, if you will. And
you're right.
If you need to try it out, otherwise you will never know, right? And maybe with a trio, or maybe with he or she may not work, but you hire somewhere else, and maybe from there you can do local gigs and pubs, and then you can record the investment that you say, well, it took us 3 months to train that guy and studio and rehearsal, and now we're charging whatever, £1,000, and I play in this cafe or studio or theater where you live, and take it from there. You know, eventually you will.
Yeah.
Eventually you will be in London playing some gigs, man.
Yeah, well, it should happen. You know, it's something that I want to do in the future. I'm a bit of a, like, I like to do one thing at a time, and because this record I'm working on at the moment is so time consuming, I just don't want to, like, but I think the thing that I'd really like is if somebody came to me and said, I love your music, I'd love to perform it. And that's my dream, somebody that's passionate about the music. So then you're not thinking in terms of a transaction with paying the musician, because it's, like I said, it's a lot of money over time. But we'll see what happens, Claudio. I don't know. But when this next record is out, I think it's going to be a step up in terms of ambition, you know, with music videos and all of this. This is what I got planned.
Do you know how to get a hold of Barbieri or Steven Wilson, to his agent, that you can send email and send a link to your music, and they can, I don't know if those people are busy, but they can give you any feedback or suggest a way to going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many connections, and obviously you can do that. You can reach out to people and see if they can. There's in fact, do you know the band Snarky Puppy?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard.
Like a jazz American band, amazing. I saw them in Nottingham about 2 or 3 years ago. Their manager got in touch with me and said, I love the record, the Zopp record. And I was blown away, like, wow, that's great.
Wow. Yeah, they're very good.
So I was in touch with him recently, and I said, can you help out with musicians? And he said, well, that's a big ask. You know, that's a lot of work. And it's a typical manager statement, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's too much work for me. But he is interested in helping out. But he recommended some Canterbury scene musicians, and I think they're very busy at the moment. I won't name any names, but so I've reached out to a few people and some high profile musicians, and they've not expressed an interest, shall we say. But it, like you said with your own stuff, if you got the intention, you put it out there, eventually something will return, I think. So
do you like bands like Gong or Caravan, any of that?
Yeah, they're lumped in with the Canterbury scene, aren't they? And I do like Gong. The early Gong with David Allen. I like You a lot. That is it, an album, You, or a song, You? That's fantastic. And I like the new Gong too with Kavas Tarabi. Do you know him?
Yeah.
From Mike World. And he's
I have not interviewed them, but they're coming, hopefully.
Yeah.
Gong members and Caravan.
Yeah, the Kavas is a really nice guy. And once I had a Magma shirt on, I mentioned that band earlier, Magma, and it's a very sort of cult following, this band. And he saw that I had one, and he had a chat with me, you know, just a really friendly guy. Yeah. So I do like Gong and Caravan and all of those bands. But I'm, in terms of inspiration for Zopp, I'm more into the more complex side of the Canterbury scene, like Egg, National Health, and Soft Machine. Yeah.
Looking back in your career, and I think I have only another 2 questions to go. Looking back in your career, what moment are special to you, and any regrets or things that you would have done differently looking back?
Well, I suppose my musical career is in its infancy. You know, I've only released 1 record, and I mean, I've done some film music and stuff like that in the past. I'm hoping to do that in the future, but that's just part-time stuff too. But you can't really live with regrets. You know, you just have to make the best record you can possible and please yourself first, and that's all that's necessary. You know, you can't regret things all the time, as long as you put the work in and you're happy with it. Obviously there are things on the record in terms of the mix that you listen to and you're like, oh, you know, that keyboard is too quiet here. But that's the curse of the artist, isn't it? You know, like a painter, you might finish a painting and then release it to the public and go, oh no, it's, you know, it's not bright enough, or it needs more shade here. And it's just the curse of the artist. You know, it can always be better, right? but little things like that. I don't have any big regrets at the moment. So yeah, everything's all right.
Yeah, an important musician, and I will send you a link to the interview. He's mentioned something like the following: you need to think that the record that you're releasing need to be perfect, because perhaps that will be the only record that you ever release. Something like that. I will send you a link to the interview, and it's very powerful, and it's so true. You don't know if you would ever release two. In your case, when you say, well, it took you 10 years to do it, right? And then you release it, was great, right? So, because you never know if you end up releasing a second album at all, if the demand or the market of the consumer music don't like your stuff, then
yeah,
we're having.
I mean, I totally agree with that sentiment, that you have to put everything into the record like it's your last record.
That's right.
And for me, this second album, I've talked about it a lot in this interview, but it's taken 2 years. I started writing the second record before I wrote the first one. So it was late 2019. Now it's 2022. And it's taken 2 years, and I've worked hard on it, you know, and it's still not done. I mean, I've written all the music, it's there, but it's just the mixing, production, the final stages. But it's so satisfying to listen to it, because it's getting better all the time. You know, sometimes when you're working on music, you're backpedaling and the technical issues and all this stuff, and it's frustrating. But at least I know myself that the music that I'm working on is pleasing me, and it's like, again, building. It's like climbing Everest, or something, without sounding too pretentious. It is quite an ambitious task to create a strong record, and that's what I want to do. If it takes 3-4 years, it doesn't matter. You know, it's a large chunk of your life, obviously, 2 years to work on a record. But I know when it's done, people will hear that. I don't like the term perfectionist, you know, because I think every artist should be a perfectionist in the sense of getting as close to the idea as possible, and that's all it is, getting close to the idea as possible.
Yeah. Are both of the demo one and the previous are available only for download, or you can buy the physical CD or vinyl?
You can buy the first Zopp record on our Bandcamp page, which is zopp.bandcamp.com. Yeah, and you can download the demo album off Bandcamp too. I think it's only like $6 or something. I'm not sure. Yeah,
very inexpensive. Very good message.
Yeah, and on the demo album, there's some extra material too, and some outtakes and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, just 2 releases at the moment.
Hopefully you will release, as you mentioned, the next one at the end of this year, and then perhaps have like a CD version or a vinyl that you can, if you have like touring, you can make some money, you know, selling your stuff at the end of the show. That's what people do. And
yes, well, it's a good point, that, because I've just designed Zopp 1 on vinyl for the first time, so it wasn't pressed. So I've just been working with a graphic designer, and we've finished the presentation of the vinyl. So that's great. It's got some extra liner notes by Andy TILLISON and some photos. Yeah. So the package looks fantastic for that.
Good for you, man. Yeah. Keep me posted on that project, because I'm interested in getting both on vinyl or CD, whatever you have. If you only have in CD, or you will have in CD and vinyl, I'm interested in getting both. So let me know and when they're ready, because I would like to buy them, and then pay for it the way you can autograph them and send it to the house.
Yeah, I'll do an autograph on it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's still available on CD, the first album, and you can get that from Bandcamp. But I'm repressing the CD in the future. Yeah, I know it's getting very dark in here, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's still available off the Bandcamp page. Yeah, and I'm repressing it later in this year, so I'm going to get more copies of the vinyl for the first time and more CD.
Great, man. It was very, very nice talking to you, man. And I like your music. You're doing great, Ryan. And I like the fact that you follow your dream. You're confident, forget about the rest of the world. That's your dream, that's your life, and you need to do it. And once you do the second album, see the possibility about, you know, touring, try it out with 5 gigs in around where you are, and you know, bring to the show, you know, whatever 50 or 100 CDs that you can sell at the end and cover that investment, or even if you break even or if you don't lose much, and then take it from there. The other thing you can do is, if you have anybody, I don't know if you know anybody in the BBC. BBC has so many radios, the Radio 1, Radio 2. Get a hold of someone and send in a copy of CD, and then see if they can play there, or can, you know, play your music, a couple of tracks, and then can call you for interviews. And then you gotta try it out, man. You know, that's what I did. That's what I did.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. You have to compete and you have to push. And maybe I've not done enough of it on the first album. I've just been like, I'm signed to a record label, they'll do it. But of course, you're still an independent artist, and you still need to push.
Yeah.
But,
still, you need to work right. A good record label will help you perhaps 70% of the time, but they are working with a lot more people, right?
Yes.
Right. The other 30% or 40%, you need to do on your own. Either if you were with a big major record label, there is a portion of that, a percentage, need to be done for the artist. You need to promote your own stuff as well. So
yeah, definitely.
that's what at least I have done with the radios, and interview people, and don't take no for an answer. And even if you knock, you know, 10 doors and nobody answers, well, perhaps 11 or the 12 will answer you. Like when my first interview, I sent 50 emails, nobody replied, and then eventually Steve Hackett get back to me, and then the rest is history. So
fantastic, good.
Yeah,
I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Good luck to you, and hope to see you live one day, man.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank
take
you.
it easy, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.